Well, even though it's match 44, we saw a lot of things for the first time in this first innings between Rajasthan and Mumbai. We got to see a debutant. What do you want to call him? Left arm wrist spinner, left arm mixed spinner. But Karthikeya Kumar had a particularly good start to his IPL career. We saw Josh Butler take on Hrithik Shawkeen for 4 sixes and eventually perish in that same over. And we've seen a tidy finish from a Mumbai Indians bowling attack towards the end. Riley Meredith responsible for that. We look back at that score of 158, see if it would make Rajasthan the happier team or Mumbai at half-time on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Footy 20 timeout powered by Haiku 95G. You'll hear from Ben Cutting in a moment. Before that, Dan Vettori. How do you sum up that innings? Curious innings there.
I think Mumbai will be incredibly happy with the way they bowled, but how well they bowled will be determined on the wicket. And it just looked like it had a little bit in it to assist some of their bowlers. Obviously, the spinners were a little tricky to get hold of. And then Meredith at the back end, I thought that was the key bit, that he was able to get away with his slower balls and execute his Yorkers, but his slow balls seem to be holding up. So I think that'll be the fascinating bit, whether this score is enough because of the surface.
Now, in the earlier game, you had Dan Vettori saying it's a good surface and Ben Cutting saying there's something in it. Now, in this game, I started with Dan Vettori saying there's something in the surface. What's Ben Cutting going to say?
No, I agree with Dan there. It just had that look about it. Even the commentators mentioned it right from the toss. They rubbed their hand down and it felt patchy, it felt dry, and it certainly looked that way on the TV. And it played like that too. And I thought Mumbai bowled very well to the conditions, proactive with their changes of pace, and very good with their links.
Let's talk about Karthikeya Kumar or Kumar Karthikeya, however he wants his name said. We remember it now for a while, because on his first IPL game, replacement player for the Mumbai Indians has left an impact. 1 for 19 of 4, the wicket of Sanju Samson on his second ball. What do you make of him?
It took me about 7 balls to work out what he was bowling, because he came together and the commentators announced him as left arm everything, and that's certainly what he produced. He started with his leg spin, then he sort of bowled a couple of seam-up balls, then he went to his carom ball. But overall, he used the surface as well as anyone, and I think the batsman kept searching for something, kept searching for a bad ball, and never really gave it to him. And Mitchell struggled against him. Even Josh Butler couldn't get him away as much as he tried. So that's a credit to, I think, the deception of him himself. Probably the first time for everyone seen him as well. But also, he was just so consistent.
What's the biggest challenge when you're bowling left-arm orthodox and left-arm wrist spin? I don't know how much left-arm wrist spin you tried in your long and decorated career.
Wrist spin's way too hard. I admire people who can bowl wrist spin. So I think he went to the wrist spin more often than that, and then his carom ball. But it was obvious that batsmen weren't picking him up easily. But I do think the surface contributed to how successful he was, because the ball was just holding enough for him to get a little bit of turn.
Ben, your thoughts on the first that you've seen of him? A lot of us are seeing him for the first time. I'm sure so too did Josh Butler.
Yeah, I certainly like what I saw. I think Dan hit the nail on the head. With his variations and his subtle variations, and how that played into the conditions, and he exploited that well. Probably a little bit lucky with how he got Sanju out halfway down, but you need that when you're a first timer and you're starting out. So it's going to be a huge confidence boost for him. I think Mumbai will be pleased with how he turned out as well.
Seems like quite the find. You see him probably getting a game now for every game rest of the season. That's what Mumbai need to look out for.
Yeah, and then the combination with Hrithik as well. They've got 2 young spinners that they're going to investigate as this tournament goes on. But anyone who comes in their debut gets 1 for 19 with the wicket of Sanju Samson deserves an extended run.
Let's talk about Hrithik Shawkeen. 16th over is quite the story. It's an event in itself. 24 runs, 6-6-6-6. We thought 6 and 6 was on. But Hrithik Shawkeen eventually at least got his man. And it's a good wicket to get of Josh Butler. Take me through that over.
It looked like a very capable, inexperienced bowler bowling to one of the best batsmen in the world. So I think with maturity and experience, you'll understand that Josh Butler's going to try and hit that first ball for 6 and the second ball and the third ball and the fourth and so on and so on. And it looked like he was just trying to bowl to him, to bowl that perfect ball to get him out. And whether he needed a little bit of advice or a little bit of help just to get him through that over, potentially. But like we've talked about a couple of times with this, his seam, or Graham Swan spoke a lot about it on commentary, his seam release is as good as you'll see for an off-spinner. And what will come with is the variations, the understanding of bowling to batsmen, use of the crease, use of round and over.
Yep.
But I think there's a bright future there for him.
And you've been impressed by him even before in the CSK game, one after that when he went wicketless. You see something which goes beyond just today in Hrithik Shawkeen.
Yeah, the same as what Graham Swan saw, is that seam position. It's incredibly hard to get that because what that brings, it brings obviously some drift in, it brings a lot more revolutions, brings dip in, so it challenges all batsmen, not just left-handed batsmen. So he will be the sort of bowler that can match up against left and right-handers as he goes along. And the other thing was he's got a pretty calm demeanour for a man who gets hit for 4 sixes and then bowls a wide spinning sort of Yorker, gets away with it, then gets a wicket, gets Buttler out in the end. So there seems something about him, plus the fact he bats. So I think Mumbai will, as always, they scout so well, and it looks like they've got another one.
Okay, we'll see if Hrithik Shawkin gets an extended run. But that over, Ben, it took Jos Buttler, who was going at 43 from 46, to eventually strike at over 100. Curious innings from Jos Buttler. I wonder what you made of it. Perhaps the best reflection that this isn't an easy surface. Otherwise, Butler's done a lot more in 50 balls.
Yeah, I think that's hit the nail on the head there to show what the surface is like when someone of that form and how he's going. He sort of struggled a little bit early on. I think Mumbai bowled well to the conditions, like we mentioned before, but how he struck them and how he was going up until that over where he caught up and he ended up striking at 128. But before that, it was quite slow for what Joss usually is. So no, that hit the nail on the head.
Would you be happy if you had that sort of innings by R. Ashwin, Ben, coming in? If you had a lot of batters struggle, Hetmeyer's finished 6 not out of 14, obviously refusing strike to try and bowl, but 21 of 9 could have a say by R. Ashwin.
Yeah, without a doubt. That could be the deciding factor in the end, that 21 off 9. And that's why I keep saying that he's got to be batting down the order and not batting at 3 or 4. It just doesn't suit him up there, it doesn't suit his game, whereas at the back end of the innings is certainly where he could do his most damage.
Yeah, I like that you point that out because I think the theory was that Ashwin is less capable of doing much damage lower down in exactly this sort of situation. This cameo, I mean, it seems to have made quite a difference.
They were good shots. They were fantastic cricket shots against pace as well. And probably people question Ashwin a little bit against that super pace, like all tail end. Well, he's not a tail ender, he's better than that. But the shot off Meredith and then Bumrah coming back, the shot over cover, I mean, those are quality cricket shots. And I think that's what Ashwin brings. He brings a little bit of class to that lower order. You can't expect him to strike at 200 every time he goes out there, but as always, he looks like he's got a game plan.
Yeah, Riley Meredith looks an improved bowler, Ben, than the one that went for big money and big expectation to Punjab and saw himself fall out of the playing 11 very quickly.
That's right. Obviously it was a tough start for him in his IPL career last year on big money. There's always big pressure that comes with it. But he's adapted his game accordingly with that as well. He's got a few more variations this year, trusts his Yorker a bit more, and he's been bowling that cut at a great effect with, when you're a tail ender or a middle order batsman facing up trying to hit him 20 rows back and he's bowling 145 to 150 at you, the last thing you expect to pick up and see is a slow ball at 115, 120.
This would be his third game now, Riley Meredith. Just trying to think of whether he has outdone the other overseas seamers, all of whom have come under some serious fire and criticism for Mumbai's auction strategy and whatnot. But between Timal Mills, Dan Sams, Meredith seems to have made the biggest impact.
He's played well, bowled well, sorry. And I mean, Timal Mills, I think, deserved an extended run. We've seen him be successful in the 100 competition and a couple of misses here, and he was moved on. But Meredith, like Cutsy said, looks like an improved bowler, and his skills have developed and his execution's developed, and that's all you want to see from a player who's on a journey. I mean, he's relatively new to international cricket, IPL cricket, but the fact that he bowls so quick and he's developing his skills means he does have a future.
Chase is on.
I think it'll be tough. I think Jos Buttler's sums up the innings in terms of if he's not striking it as fluently as he always does, then there must be something in the wicket that makes it a little bit tricky.
So you're backing Rajasthan to defend this then?
I think so. On the back of what they did against RCB, on the back of the quality of their bowling lineup, particularly Ashwin and Chahal.
Ben, more firepower in the form of Tim David. I wonder if you'd have chosen a different surface and a venue to return to this side. But are you with Dan on this, or do you think Mumbai can pull this off?
No, I'm with Dan on this. I think Yuzi and Chahal and Ashwin are just going to be far too good for the batsmen, particularly with those three overseas batting through the middle. That not ideal surfaces for them, and coming up spin is even worse.
Tim David, how would you use him, Ben? Is he suited to just bat after Pollard or somewhere there, 5, 6, not higher?
Look, I'd probably pad him up and get him ready for 3 or 4. Depending on what happens in the power play, and he can kill the game if he comes off in that position, which playing PSL with him before this, that was his role, and regularly he was hitting 50 off 20 balls, 60 off 30 balls, and killing the game, particularly in chases, up the top of the order there.
3 or 4, does that seem tempting to you for Tim David?
I think it's a timing thing, like Ben alluded to, and for him it's all about managing expectation. I think because he went for so much money, there's a theory that he'll just walk out there and bat well. And when he's batted well, whether it's PSL or BBL, it's been sort of 5 or 6 closing out an innings, and potentially he can do that for Mumbai, and there's no reason why he can't be successful in that role.
Drop catch doesn't help though, or taking one later.
Yeah, real early on as well. Just compounds issues.
All right. Well, let's hope that Tim David, for his sake, gets a good knock today. And we'll pick up the chat with Ben Cutting and Dan Vettori, both of whom back Rajasthan to defend this, to relegate Mumbai to their 9th, what would be their 9th successive defeat. We'll see if that does happen and pick up the chat at the end on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 95G.